Hello and welcome to Training Tuesday, where we go through weekly tips and tricks to make your career just a little bit more awesome. Now, for anyone who follows Empowered Achievers on Instagram, you likely know by now that I was in Yosemite this weekend. We were celebrating my dad's birthday and I just got back this morning. But as I was flying back, I was reminded of a time when I used to be a really nervous flyer. And when I say really nervous flyer, I don't just mean nervous, I mean sweat through my shirt, gripping the railings, talking to anyone who would listen so that I could distract myself from screaming expletives the whole way down, kind of nervous. So it was pretty extreme. But because I used to be a nervous flyer, I was inspired by today's message, which is the idea of assuming positive intent. Now, this is something I used to say a lot in my Essence days, and it's still a lesson that rings true today. Assuming positive intent is all about assuming that the best case scenario, or the thing that's most likely to happen, is what happened. It's kind of like the idea of Occam's razor, right? Occam's razor puts forward this idea that you should always assume the thing that has the least number of twists and turns and is the most straightforward explanation is probably the explanation. Now, what that means for flying is that when you see a flight attendant sit down, it's probably more likely that you're about to hit turbulence than that they know something you don't know and you're about to plummet to your death, right? So that's the idea of assuming positive intent, believing that the thing that's most likely to happen is probably what happened. But beyond the kind of sense of when I was flying home today, which, by the way, if anyone else is a scared flyer, I have completely transformed the way I fly the last year, so I have some recommendations for you if you have any questions. But beyond the kind of fear of flying place, this can also be so applied to the corporate realm, and that's why I wanted to share this today. Because assuming positive intent is all about assuming that the thing that's most likely to happen and has the most innocent explanation is what happened. So when you're asked to talk, if your manager says they want to speak with you in the next week, instead of assuming that they hate you and they're going to fire you, more likely than not, it's probably something straightforward like that project you're working on that they had a question about, right? So it's always better for everyone in the long run if you're able to assume what's most likely to have happened opposed to what those creepy gremlins in the back of your brain are telling you what happened, right? And so this can come up with your managers, this can come up with clients, people you talk to, but that's my tip for you this week. If there is anything that you've been holding on to, worrying about, thinking 10 steps ahead about, or generally assuming probably the worst case thing has happened, I want you to instead look at it with the lens of positive intent. Assume the most likely thing has happened, and you can even take the steps to write it out of what am I worried happened, what is most likely to have happened, because it can really help to shift your perspective, and it's better for everyone in the long run. Of course, there's some times when the negative thing happens or they do want to fire you or this, worst case scenario is the truth. But the reality is it's going to save you a lot of pain in the long run because most of the time it's probably something pretty innocent. So try assuming positive intent. Remember the rule of Occam's razor and know that you probably have a very innocent explanation for most things. So try that on for size, shout with any questions, and in the meantime, happy working.